So today we're going to take a look at Levi Shirley's Sleepster. It's a 67 Jeepster, really with the heart of an Ultra4 car. So, you know, it's got real suspension, it's got a real motor, it's got a real drivetrain in it, yet they kept all the character that really makes it cool. So it's got awesome patina, it's got original emblems, a phenomenal interior. And so we're going to take an in-depth look with Levi at one of the coolest Jeepsters you'll ever see. So Levi, let's talk a little bit about the Sleepster. What can you tell me about it? Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so it is a 1967 Jeepster or Commando. For starters, we bought the Jeep in Oklahoma, and it was just a box stock Jeep. I think it had the V6. I think instead of V6, it had a small block Chevy in it, and got to driving it going, man, like this patina is so rad. Like we can't destroy this patina, so let's do something that nobody has done.
What was kind of the reasoning behind building something like this, and why a Jeepster versus, you know, you could have done a CJ, or you could have done a Blazer, or you could have done something else, but what was the whole idea behind doing a Jeepster?
So Jeepsters are just cool. You don't see very many of them, for starters. And in my opinion, Jeepsters are just so ugly, they're cool. And that's kind of what makes them cool, is just the fact that they're just kind of the ugly ducklings. They don't make them anymore. You don't see a ton of them. And they were just kind of their own breed of Jeep, which just makes them pretty cool. You know, definitely, like I said, could have done anything else, but you just don't see any of them. So found this one and decided it was the one.
Let's talk a little bit about the chassis on this, the guys who built it, and I guess just some of the considerations that went into it.
Yeah, so it was, to start off, it was built by the guys at Drivetrain down in Dallas, Texas. Those guys build world-class vehicles. They do amazing, amazing work. And ultimately, it's who we trusted to design this thing. We pretty much gave them the keys to the project and say, this is what we want, knock yourselves out. And that's what they did. So to start off with the chassis, they did a completely rectangular tube chassis because the factory chassis just wasn't strong enough, and we couldn't package everything that we wanted to package with it. It didn't quite have the correct clearances. It wasn't going to be strong enough. So that's when they decided to obviously go with a proper rectangular box tube chassis. The interior is all tied into the chassis as well. It has a complete 2-inch roll cage in here, and you can actually see the bypasses and the coilovers in the rear are actually in the cab. So they come up and tied to that 2-inch cage on the interior. And then, of course, the dash is all cut out as well, so it goes down into the frame. So it's a super strong cage. Like, I wouldn't be afraid to tumble this thing at whatever speed at all. So it's built very, very well.
Touch on the suspension a little bit. Obviously, it's got these massive kings on it. What was the reasoning there? I mean, let's touch on the details there. What was the reasoning for going so extreme on a vehicle like this?
So to kind of put it like super simple terms, is it goes back to the whole engine deal of there's no replacement for displacement. So we wanted something that would actually ride really, really nice. Like if we wanted to go pre-run the King of the Hammers course with it, we could go do it and not get beat up. So we opted for 3-inch bypasses and 2.5-inch coils front and rear. And that makes the ride so plush in this thing. Man, it just soaks up everything you throw at it.
In the front and rear, what length shocks are on this thing? Kind of get an idea of the suspension travel numbers.
So I don't know the exact wheel travel numbers, but it has 14-inch shocks up front and then 16s in the rear on the trailing arm. So it's going to be up there, but I can't give you set in stone numbers just because I don't know that.
So it's a crawler. It can run in the desert. It can kind of do it all with those kind of wheel travel numbers. That big of a shock, everything.
Yeah, so if you don't know what Ultra4 is, that's what I do. That's what I race. That's what I've done for the past decade or so. Is Ultra4 cars are basically the Swiss Army knives of the off-road world. Like, we can literally go do everything from desert racing to East Coast woods racing to short course racing to rock crawling, and that's essentially like the whole idea behind this vehicle is the fact that you can go do everything with this that you could in an Ultra4 car and still have a nice plush interior and still, drive to the mountains with family, drive it home, do all that kind of things. So definitely did not sacrifice on the suspension or skip on that.
It's got a 3-link and a 4-link in it. Is that just from a packaging standpoint or what?
Yeah, so obviously in the rear end's a 4-link, and that pretty much mimics an Ultra4 car, such as my Legends car or my 4400 car. You ultimately get the super good wheel travel, and then on top of that, just a super plush ride with a trailing armor suspension. And that's just, man, it droops out true, and it just really, really can pound whoops where it needs to, when we need to go fast. And then the 3-link up front is just from like a packaging standpoint, is you can't get your upper triangulation with a 4-link to go around a motor. So that's where we opted for a 3-link on the front, is just so we can still get the correct, have the correct geometry up front, and the front axle and everything can articulate exactly how it needs to articulate. Just the only sacrificing by doing that is it doesn't track 100% true with the 3-link. So it doesn't handle in the desert near as good as a 4-link would. But just couldn't package it with the drivetrain, yeah.
So that's kind of the perfect segue into the drivetrain on this thing. Obviously, it's not a stock 67 Jeepster motor anymore.
No, the drivetrain has nothing to do with anything Jeep anymore. It has primarily GM and aftermarket. So it has a L92, essentially box stock, factory cam, sells the variable valve timing, has the factory intake under it. So it's just like a torque monster. But it's probably around 450, 475 horse, and it's paired with a 6L80, which is GM's 6-speed, which is essentially a poor man's sequential transmission, because we can tap shift it up and down, go through all 6 gears, and has a really low first gear for crawling, and then it has a double overdrive as well for more highway speeds. And then that is paired with a Atlas. I believe it's a 2.0 in it, and then it has Spider Trax axles front and rear, and Gearworks high pinion 10 inches front and rear with 620 gears under it. So this thing, you guys are gonna go like, holy crap, like 620 gears, that's gotta be ridiculous. But with the 6L80, it pairs really, really nice. So it has a super good low range, and it can still run like, I don't know, like 80 mile an hour in low range. So
yeah, and this doesn't obviously have a small tire on it by any means.
No. This is a Yokohama Geolandar 39. This is actually their race tire. It's the same tire I run on my 4400 car. So it has a super awesome sidewall, great tread on top, and like I said, I trust this tire to go run King of the Hammers, and so I'm going to trust it on my Jeepster.
Yeah, so that kind of is a good point. I know people are going to look at this, like you said, and say 620s, but it's got a big tire under it. I mean, these things probably had a 30-inch tire or a 31 stock,
Yeah.
So I know that was always my initial reaction when you talk about, you know, the gearing in this thing. Between that and the Atlas and the 6L80, everything obviously works extremely well with it.
Yeah, like it is the exact same combination that I run in my 4400 car. It is, I mean, LS V8, 6L80, 2-speed transfer case, and a 620 gear, and that car's an animal. So it does everything that my Ultra4 car will do.
Kind of one thing I noticed, the lights are unique for sure. I don't know if most people would notice that, but I did, obviously. And so tell us a little bit about these, because they're not the average LED light.
Yeah, so these are the JW Speaker's new J3 factory replacement headlights, and they're also heated as well. That's what looks like that whole like transformer look there. That is actually a smart heat technology that JW Speaker has developed, because if you know LEDs, you know that they don't typically get warm enough to burn off the ice and stuff, especially up north in the wintertime. So JW Speaker developed this technology to actually have a heating element on the outside of the lens so it can burn off. And then it also integrates the turn signals in it, and then also the high beam and low beam come on at the same time whenever you turn on the high beam. And another thing I will note about these lights is the fact that they are Bluetooth compatible with JW Speaker's new J-Link app. You can actually log into these and change the brightness. You can change the startup pattern on them. And so they're just a very, very cool feature that you don't normally see in a headlights. And that's why we chose to go with JW Speaker lights on this Jeepster.
That's super, super trick. In a vehicle like this, it's got to have the right safety gear, obviously. And kind of what went into the selection of this, I mean, you got really cool suspension seats, but they're unique to this vehicle.
Yeah, we needed an interior package that obviously complemented the 67 Jeepster really, really nice. And so we chose to reach out to the folks at PRP Seats, and they set us up with this complete custom interior. It obviously has the tweed seats, and it has the ostrich skin fake vinyl. It's not real, people. It's not real. It is totally fake. But it is also very important to stay safe, so we chose the PRP harnesses as well. The rear has a back PRP bucket to match. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but you gotta fit between the fender wells of the Jeep, so it's a snug fit back there. And it can be a little noisy with those bypasses back there, but it's super safe, and that is the main goal behind really just anything off-road in general. Is we go out and we take chances, and we don't want to sacrifice anybody's safety, so we need to obviously go with the best that we could. This is our dual Ultra4 and styled Jeepster. Thanks for watching. Thanks for checking it out. If you're ever out on the trail and you see us, come by, check it out, and say hi.